Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Thorne, the Community Relations Coordinator for the Stormwater Quality Division here at the City of Oklahoma City. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the February edition of our 2024 webinar series. We'll begin the first presentation shortly, but before I do, I'd like to provide some information to help enhance everyone's experience during today's webinar. In order to reduce background noise, we ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into chat. We'll be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will have our speakers answer as many questions as possible at the end of each presentation. If anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please send me a request via email. We'll place my email into chat, so you'll have it handy. Each of the presentations in this webinar series will be available within a week or so after the scheduled webinar date on our website under Stormwater Workshops. The section where these webinars are posted is called the webinar series, and today's session will be, of course, the February edition. We'll post a link to the website where you can find those presentations toward the end of today's session. If anyone has any questions at this time, please feel free to type them into chat. But without further ado, we will play the very short webinar series welcome presentation.
Good afternoon and welcome to our 2024 Stormwater Quality Webinar Series. We always enjoy providing opportunities for everyone to learn how to help keep our local waterways clean. Remember, we are all downstream from someone else, so let's work together to protect the waterways in our communities. This year's series has several great presentations planned. You will have the opportunity to hear from some of our own stormwater quality staff, as well as select guest speakers. We hope to see you for each session, so be sure to tune in. During today's session, we will be hearing from Matt Wormus with the Department of Environmental Quality, providing his presentation on Tier 2 chemical storage, and Anthony Hamilton with Envirotech Engineering and Consulting, providing his presentation on OKR05 permit overview and updates. As we've already mentioned, each of the presentations should be available online within a week or so after the presentation has aired live. The links will be posted on the workshops page of our Stormwater Quality website. We'll put a direct link to that page in a chat towards the end of today's session. We also offer an excellent Lunch and Learn series. The next in-person event is scheduled for March 27th with Old Castle Infrastructure. If you are interested in attending, please use the QR code to register. All previously aired virtual Lunch and Learns are also available on our website. If you are not already subscribed to our newsletters, please do so now by aiming your phone's camera at one of the newsletter's QR codes. The quarterly newsletter is the first QR code, and it provides overall information about what we're up to. You can find this one on the GovDelivery website. The only way to sign up for either the construction or industrial training and education newsletters is via a direct website link or these QR codes, as these two options are both hidden in our email service site GovDelivery. These newsletters are the main way we announce upcoming training events, webinars, and workshops, so be sure to subscribe. If you miss any of these codes, send Holly an email and she'll send you the direct website links. Some of our presentations will be live and some will be pre-recorded. We do our best to provide the most accurate and up-to-date information possible while also working with our presenters' strengths and their schedules. We live and work in a beautiful community here in OKC. For more information about stormwater quality, what we're up to, and local regulations, be sure to visit our website.
Up next are the presentations for today's session. Today we're going to hear from Matthew Wormus from the Department of Environmental Quality and Anthony Hamilton. Now, when we originally scheduled this webinar with Anthony, he was with DEQ. However, he has since accepted a position with Envirotech Engineering and Consulting as a project engineer. So congratulations to Anthony. However, because of his new role, Anthony is unable to be with us today. So he has provided us with a recording of his presentation that we will share. Now to introduce our speakers. Matt Wormus is an environmental program specialist in the chemical reporting and preparedness section at the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. He has been at DEQ for 10 years, 9 of those in his current section. He also serves as the chair of ODEX GIS Subcommittee, a member of the Oklahoma Geographic Information Council, and the chair of the Oklahoma Hazardous Materials Emergency Response Commission. Anthony Hamilton, PE, graduated from the Klassen of School of Advanced Studies in 2013 with an International Baccalaureate diploma. He then attended the University of Oklahoma and graduated in 2017 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering. On graduation, he was hired by the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality as a district engineer for the Industrial Wastewater and Stormwater Enforcement Section and spent 6.5 years in that role, conducting inspections, evaluating, and enforcing on industrial wastewater and stormwater facilities. And then in 2022, he assumed construction stormwater enforcement duties. Anthony registered as an engineer intern in 2020 and became a licensed professional engineer in the state of Oklahoma in June of 23, with an emphasis in environmental engineering. In February of 2024, Anthony accepted a new position with Envirotech Engineering and Consulting as a project engineer, and his free time is consumed by his wife and 2 daughters. All right. Again, if anyone has any questions during today's presentation, be sure to type them into chat. Matt, you are now free to share your screen and begin your presentation.
All right. Can everyone see the screen right now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Awesome. I just want to make sure. First off, I want to thank Jordan and Holly for in inviting me today to talk about my program a little bit. This isn't normally a group that we do these presentations to. So with that, I'm very excited to start talking about our program here at DEQ and just explaining to you all what we do in our little section here and ways that we keep not only Oklahoma City safe, but as well as the first responders from Oklahoma City, as the general public. So I'll be talking today about our program specifically called Tier 2 reporting, but I'm also, just because it is a new group for me, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the history behind this reporting program, as well as why it exists too. So that. So the program I work with is called the Chemical Reporting and Preparedness Section, and the main federal rules that we help regulate here in Oklahoma is a program called EPCRA, the Emergency Planning Community Right to Know Act. And the reason we have EPCRA is because of what happened in Bhopal, India, back on December 2nd, 1984. So overnight, so Bhopal, India was a town in India that backed up to a large industrial park that was at the time producing pesticide. And one night they had a spill of 40 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas. And because of this gas, over 500,000 people were exposed. Thousands died that night, and thousands have died since thousands have died since due to the spill right here. So when it happened back in 1984, the USA EPA at the time was looking at the rule and was looking over this spill and decided, all right, this is India. This will never happen here in the United States. But let's just keep watch over it. And if something does happen, then we can make some changes. What did happen was in Institute, West Virginia, on August 11th, 1985, a smaller spill, chemical release of methylene chloride and allyl-dicarboxene were spilled at that time. Luckily, it wasn't near as bad as Bhopal, but 6 were injured and sick due to the spill. And after that, the EPA decided that this is time we take into account of what chemicals are being stored in our communities, that we're not caught blind during these sorts of situations. So after a year, on October 17, 1986, EPCRA, like I said, the Emergency Planning Community Right to Know Act, was officially signed into law. To get it passed, they actually tacked it on to the very back of the Superfund Act. So sometimes you also see this called SARA Title III, because it's technically the Third Amendment the Superfund Act. So, when this law was passed, it established five main things that we cover here in the state of Oklahoma. First, it set up for every state a state emergency response commission, and every state was allowed to make that whatever they wanted to. So here in Oklahoma, we now call that the OMRC, the Oklahoma Hazardous Materials Emergency Response Commission. That's made up of first responders and industry folks, as well as DEQ, the fire chief, highway patrol, and Office of Emergency Management are all involved in this commission. Just basically talk about hazmat situations within Oklahoma, but overall, as well as the as emergency response, as the overarching goal of this commission. It also established what we call local emergency planning committees. And so when Oklahoma set up the rules of EPCR, they decided to define that every county was going to have one of these local emergency planning committees. And right now in Oklahoma, we have 76 of 77 counties have an active LEPC within their counties. And again, these are made up of more local partners. So you'll have local businesses that are storing hazardous materials for hazmat, but you also have your local emergency managers. You'll have your fire departments, your fire chiefs, your police officers, your emergency managers. Anyone that's involved in these emergency situations are all now involved in these committees that meet together just to kind of talk about planning purposes. And again, the worst time to meet someone is during an actual event. So this allows people to do, get to know the people that not only own the places that could be causing hazards into their community, but also those that will be responding to these hazards as well too. It also set up our spill reporting rules in Oklahoma. So anytime that there's a large spill, all those after action plans are sent to the DEQ for records too. It established another federal rule called the Toxic Release Inventory. And then finally, what I'll kind of focus on today too, the overall Tier 2 reporting program, which takes up the good chunk of my time here at DEQ. So the Tier 2 reporting program, it is an annual reporting program that's to establish a database of hazardous chemicals within the state of Oklahoma. Now, this is only for materials that are defined as hazardous on their safety data sheet. There's no overarching list of, oh, these are hazardous, these are not hazardous, these are Tier 2 chemicals. When you look at your safety data sheet now, there's actually a regulatory section, and on those sheets it'll pop up. Again, we talked about how this EPCR rule is also called SARA Title 3. It'll pop up SARA Title 3, and at that point it'll tell you if the chemical is defined as hazardous by OSHA standards. So these are facilities across the state that are storing these hazardous materials, and they have to be over a reporting threshold. So now for most things in the state, that's going to be 10,000 pounds. But for some materials that the EPA is defined as being extremely hazardous, they actually have a lower threshold. So some of these lower threshold chemicals could be your chlorine, your anhydrous ammonia, your sulfuric acid, just the real nasty stuff that's stored in our communities. The reason it's a lower threshold is because those pose higher risks of safety. So it's a way to get those down too. And then, like I said, this is an annual report. So all these reports are due by March 1st of every year. So this is my busy time of helping companies submit their reports. So the real nice thing is when the rule was established, it gave guidance for overall rules. So like, we talked about like the threshold rules, what's reported to, but then the process of that, it was left completely up to the state. So technically in the rules, you're supposed to file the same report 3 different times. You're supposed to file it with the state of Oklahoma. You're supposed to file the report with your county LEPC, and then also the closest fire department to your facility. We found out that that wasn't really happening here in Oklahoma, so we actually set up a system where everyone just submits the report to us at the DEQ, my section here, and then we take on the burden of responsibility of dispersing the data to the county LEPCs. So again, that's why we try to keep them as active as we can because we have contacts in all those counties so that we can send this data down to them so that they have it. And then they can, once they have it, then they can disperse it to the first responders, the emergency managers, the fire chiefs, and the hazmat teams within their jurisdiction. It's one of those things where it's great that we have the reports here at the DEQ in the state of Oklahoma, but the purpose of this report was to keep communities and first responders safe of this data. So we just want to make sure that the data that we have gets dispersed down to the people that truly need these reports. And like I said, in other states, so like if you have a facility that submits in Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas, Oklahoma, you follow it once with me. In Texas and Kansas, you're filing that same report to the state, the LAPC, and the fire department too. So this is what the current tier 2 map looks like right now. This is actually on our website, and I will show you where this is located on our website. Um, but like I said, this is our reporting time right now. So I get these reports all day, every day from January 2nd until March 1st. So every Monday I update this GIS map right here too. That basically allows two purposes. One, it allows a facility to know if it's on this map that I have their report, but it also kind of helps out because this is data for the community that a citizen of Oklahoma can also access this map too to find out what potential hazards are stored in their community. Because again, the purpose it's the community right, to know. So if you're located near one of these places too, you can actually submit a request to me at the DEQ, and I will give you a copy of that facility's uh, tier 2 report. It'll basically tell you what chemicals are stored there and a contact person. It won't tell you where or any quantities of that too. It'll just say, you're located next to this place. This is the chemicals they have. If you have any questions, this is the contact person so that you can better prepare the safety for your personal living. And it's one of those things where we get these all the time. Most of the time, honestly, it's someone's moving in their grandma and they're concerned because there's an industrial plant behind them. They just want to make sure that grandma's okay, and we'll help them out. We'll give them that information. 9 times out of 10, it's nothing serious. But then if it is, they can always have that contact information as well to reach out. Now, the nice thing about this map is you see it's spread across the entire state. We do outreach and receive reports from every industry type in the state of Oklahoma, from those tank batteries you see driving up and down the highways, to the wind farms, to the water treatment plants across the state, to marinas, airports, anything and everything in Oklahoma that is storing hazardous materials and chemicals. We have those reports on our database. So all my time, not during tier 2 season, is doing outreach to these um I got it's doing outreach to these industry groups just to explain what's going on and that what's going on with this chemical reporting program and why is it so important to keep doing your tier 2 report year after year after year. So it's like I said, this is what the database looked like as of 8 a.m. this morning too. This is about 25,000 reports. We will end up with about 50,000 of these reports for this year. That is the second most in the nation, only behind the state of Texas. So Texas gets about 85,000 reports a year. We receive about 50,000. So as you can see, things are busy, and by the time we're done, this entire map of Oklahoma will be covered in these little red dots too. And the last thing I just want to show you too, I'm going to kind of leave my PowerPoint and let me go back here. And I want to show you our tier 2 website. This link will work. Awesome. So this is anything you ever want to know about tier two. If you're in this industry or just as a as a member of the public, would you like to know more? Absolutely. So all this is found here on the DEQ website. You can find under tier two reporting. So we do a big training every year where we kind of go in depth more on the reporting program, what the reporting software looks like too. But also we've done some YouTube videos as well too. So if you'd like to know more about LAPCs, the tier two report, that's right here on this link. But also that map I showed you, it's right here underneath this download last year's report. So there's one right here. This is filed in 2024. So that's updated every Monday, except for this Monday because offices were closed. But the only other thing I wanted to show you is if you come here to divisions, and again, our section is called the Chemical Reporting and Preparedness section. So if you click on that right there too, you come down here to Tier 2 reporting. This is a map that we have specifically for the public. Like I said, every week I'll go through and I'll update uh, the main map of what's currently in the database. But after that's done, I'll come down here and I'll update this map right here. Locate chemicals near your community. This is a map that we made for the public, just so that they're aware of what materials are stored in their section. So you can come in here, you can type in your address. So for example, if I want to type in the address of the Oklahoma DEQ, I'll come in here. All right, it's there. And so as you can see, there are 80 tier two sites within a 2 mile radius of the Oklahoma DEQ. Now, when you start scrolling through here, this is when you'll start to see that, okay, so most of these you're also gonna have all your cell towers. So being close to downtown Oklahoma City, there are a lot of cell towers. So that's why there's so many here too, but also there are some industries too. So if you lived here and you want to know more information on that, you could just click on whichever number it is here too, and you can send an email to our central records, and I will send you a copy of that report. I can't give you everything, but you just have to tell me what facilities you would like, and I can provide you with that information. Because again, the entire purpose, it's great that we have this data here at the state level, but it truly is essential that this data gets disseminated down to the local county and the city level, because they're the ones that are responding to these events, and they have added this information into their safety programs so that they don't go blind into certain situations too. And that's kind of a quick update on my program. I should have pointed out too. Back here, this is an actual photo of that facility in Bhopal, in India. This was taken before the incident happened. And then this right here was actually from a pipeline fire that we had out in the Texas Panhandle about 2 weeks ago. And it was a little 6-inch pipeline that had um, just a little 6-inch pipeline that had a rupture, and this is the fire that was caused by that little 6-inch closed off valve out in the Panhandle of Texas. So Panhandle of Oklahoma, out in Texas County, near Beaver. So as you can see, we have these all we're constantly with chemicals around us, potential for hazards all the time. This is kind of a report to, like I said, make sure that our first responders and our county folks are aware of what's being stored out there, and as well as them. It's also the public ever has any questions, they can always ask for that too. But with that too, that's kind of the end of the presentation I had right now. Do you guys want to do questions now or questions at the very end?
No, it looks like we have a question in chat.
Awesome. Yeah.
Jordan Peebles asked if a facility does not submit the report, is enforcement conducted? Are most
So
facilities prompt at submitting their reports? reports?
So most are, yes. So at the state level, there's no fees for being late on your tier two report. If someone doesn't file the report, we always do a big check over that on after the deadline. So March 1st is the deadline. So starting on March 2nd, we'll go through, and if there's any reports that filed last year but not this year, we'll just reach out to them and remind them that their tier two report is due. So it's one of the things. So from the state level, there's no fees. There are potential for fees at the federal level, though. If your facility has a spill or something and your tier two is not current as being submitted, there are opportunities for fines from the federal level, and most are good at submitting the report every year. The biggest issue comes when there's change of position and a new person comes in and you kind of have to retrain them on how to do the report. But overall, here in Oklahoma, we're pretty good on getting reports in before the deadline, and then we chase down that last 5 to 10% of reports every year.
Great. It also appears that Wayne Craney is asking, why are cell towers on the inventory?
It is because of the sulfuric acid within the batteries. So
Hmm,
because of the lower threshold for that and the large amount of batteries and cell towers, as well as uh, the amount of sulfuric acid in forklift batteries, just because of the amounts, the percentages, it trips that lower threshold quantity. So we also technically get reports from every Walmart, Target, Bass Pro in the state of Oklahoma, strictly because of sulfuric acid in their lead acid batteries. So, yep,
interesting.
yep.
We have another question. Does DEQ communicate to the feds when reports are submitted, or do facilities submit reports to both DEQ and the feds? Is that how the feds know to conduct fines if a report is not submitted?
So no, your tier two report, as of right now, will never actually be submitted to the EPA. Everything is done at the state and local level. The reason the EPA and feds would ever get involved is if your facility were to have a fire or some sort of inspection. But the EPA is not going after you strictly for your tier two. It's they're coming in for, like I said, an inspection, or in case that something else has happened at your facility. And if they ask for your tier two report, it's always good to have that available to show them that you have complied. So yes, so it's one of the things. We don't share our data with the federal government. We just share it with everything state and below. So.
Okay.
mm.
Mr. Wayne Craney asked, when was Tier 2 delegated to DEQ?
So tier two was delegated shortly after, so shortly after that deadline of 1986. It was actually the EPCA program was actually originally delegated to the Office of Civil Defense, which is now Emergency Management, and they kept all of the EPCA rules about um, grants and grant opportunities for hazmat situations, and they actually passed on all of the reporting programs and everything else to the Oklahoma Health Department, and then that little faction of the health department spun into DEQ. It's been with DEQ since as long as DEQ's existed. The predecessor, his name was Tom Bergman. He kind of ran this program when he started here in the mid 90s until he retired a few years ago, and then he passed it on to me. But we've been doing tier two reporting for as long as the program's been around here in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like that's the end of the questions.
All
Thank you
righty.
so much, Matt. That was a great
All right,
presentation.
you're welcome.
Yeah. Um, On to our next presentation. Although Anthony is unable to be here to answer questions, Wayne Craney with DEQ is present and will be able to respond to any questions that anyone may have. As a reminder, if anyone would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's presentation, please send me an email to request it. We ask that you don't request certificates in chat because we may not have your email address linked to your username on Teams. We'll send out the certificates later this week. As I've mentioned, a recording of today's presentation should be available on our website in the next week or so, and I will put that website link into the chat for you now. If anyone still needs to register for either the 2024 webinar series or our quarterly e-newsletter, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to provide you with that information. You can also sign up by using the QR codes now on your screen.
Hello, my name is Anthony Hamilton. I am a professional engineer in the state of Oklahoma. I've been with the DEQ for a little over 6.5 years. This is a presentation on industrial stormwater and an update and kind of general overview of the OKR05 multi-sector general permit, the MSGP, which covers stormwater discharges from industrial activities. The permit, as I said, covers the discharge of stormwater from industrial activities that are described by their standard industrial classification code, the SIC code. Those SIC codes that we cover are listed at the beginning of the OKR05 permit. We have about 30 sectors, sectors A through AD. They cover a variety of things. Milling industries, timber, landfills, asphalt facilities, airfield pavements, quite a wide range of industrial facilities. Basically anything that can contribute pollutants to runoff. We do not use the North American Industrial Classification System, the NICS, at this time. I have gotten quite a few questions about that. And people will send me the NICS code, and we specifically need the SIC code. The permit went into effect July 5th, 2022, and has a modified effective date of November 1st, 2023. Authorizations under the OKR05 can be issued to facilities that do not meet the SIC code requirements that are listed at the beginning of the OKR05 permit, determined by our executive director. They would be put into Sector AD. Those are usually facilities that may have potential to contribute runoff from stormwater that aren't covered otherwise, and those would be as as determined basis. I don't think we have too many of those right now. So these are some most common exceptions for if you are within that SIC code, why you may not have an OKR05 permit with the state of Oklahoma. And those are stormwaters that are mixed with non-stormwater. And again, anything that gets mixed with industrial wastewater is then identified as industrial wastewater. And so if that is discharging, then you may be required to obtain an industrial wastewater permit for that discharge. We also have a couple general permits that are covered that cover stormwater discharges. Our most common are the OKG11T and the OKG11MT for mobile plants. These are industrial and stormwater permits kind of wrapped all into one. So of these, it kind of covers their impoundments that they have for washing out their plants, but also covers the outfalls for the stormwater discharges. And then, of course, if it is a construction site, those stormwater discharges are covered by our other stormwater permit, the OKR10, and would be filed that way. The final most common reason is a no exposure certification is granted to a facility. Facilities can apply for this NEC if they do not have any exposure to stormwater, at least of their industrial activity. Either it's all covered or there's no potential way for that to be exposed to stormwater. I think there's about 11 criteria checklist on the NEC form that each of those has to be met to be granted that NEC. As far as obtaining the permit, permittees must submit a NOI, a notice of intent, to the ECLS stormwater permitting section. Those renewals have to be submitted within 90 days of the expiration of the previous permit. So the previous permit expired July 4th, 2022. So everybody should have had them in no later than October of 2022 for facilities that were needing to renew their OKR05 authorization. And again, those are our 5-year cycles. And so the permit in 2022 will expire in 2027. So that might be something to look out for doing the next time. DEQ does not accept any other NOI forms other than our DEQ form 606-002B, including OKC NOI forms. My understanding is that OKC does accept DEQ NOI forms. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that. NOIs can be mailed to DEQ's office, they can be faxed to us, or they can be emailed to ecls-stormwaterpermitting@deq.ok.gov. I have provided the ECLS stormwater permitting contact information. They can be reached if there's any questions regarding the permitting process or any questions about the submittal of the NOI. They can also be reached via that email if any questions arise during that time. Next, we're going to kind of talk about some of the most notable changes that have occurred in the OKR05 permit from the 2017 permit to this newest permit that was issued in 2022. And the biggest thing is some of the reporting requirements not being required to be submitted to the DEQ. And those are the ACERs, the Annual Comprehensive Site Compliance Evaluation Reports. And those are submitted each year by March 1st of the following year. So if it was due, or if it was for calendar year 2023, those would be due March 1st, 2024. Again, we no longer ask those specifically to be submitted to DEQ unless we specifically request it, but they do need to be kept on site with the SWP3. And we also do no longer require impaired water monitoring data to be submitted to DEQ unless we specifically request it. That data is to be used to evaluate the effectiveness of BMPs to ensure that they are not contributing to the impairment. And on the impaired water monitoring, they can get exceptions for those within the first year if their results prove that they do not have aren't contributing to the impairment of that water body. We still require those specific, the sector-specific NELMs to be submitted to the DEQ. NELMs are the numeric effluent limitation monitoring data. And here we have the sectors that are required to submit those NELMs. Some of the biggest ones are runoff from asphalt emulsion facilities, runoff from hazardous waste landfills. And again, those are from only their active sites that touch the active part of the landfill. So they could have some outfalls that need to be sampled and other outfalls that may not need to be sampled because it's in a non-active area that's not receiving that specific runoff. Same thing with air-filled pavements. So it may be an airport or an air transportation facility that does de-icing activities by one outfall, but doesn't do them at the other. It is for runoff only in areas where de-icing / anti-icing activities occur. And again, these are a once-a-year grab sample that is required to be tested. Each sector has different things that they're required to monitor for and different limitations. if they break their limits or don't meet them, they are subject to take corrective actions within 30 days and implement them as soon as feasible, and collect a stormwater sample the next available time. Again, it's stormwater, so can vary somewhat on that. If they continue to not meet the limit, then it would be switched to a quarterly monitoring for that until they can resolve the issue that is causing the exceedance for whatever limit. This is, as many of you know, one of the most important parts of the OKR05 permit is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWP3. All facilities that are permitted under the OKR05 permit are required to update and maintain their SWP3 for their industrial site. During inspections, it's important to evaluate this and verify the accuracy and that all documents are kept up to date and correct. DEQ does provide an SWP3 template on our website at deq.ok.gov. Here on the right are the contents of the SWP3 that must be maintained. And again, this should be a living document that is continually updated by the site. I like to tell facilities, you're more than welcome to make handwritten changes inside of it as long as it's initial and dated. A lot of these things will change on a occurring basis. We like to see actual interaction with that SWP3, rather it's just sitting on a shelf forever and ever and ever, such as, team members switch all the time. People can come in and out. You can bring in different types of pollutants. Maybe you switch certain control measures that haven't been as effective, that your quarter visual monitorings have showed haven't been as effective to do that. And so we want to see, that you're continually modifying the SWP3 as needed. These are some of the most important additional documentation that is required and must be available for review if requested by the DEQ. Some of these are important ones are documentation and maintenance of repairs of control measures, inspection reports, and that should kind of encompass that as well. Sampling and monitoring data, and they also have to keep the copies of the original laboratory reports and any corrective actions that they implement. And again, as we said earlier, we no longer require you to submit the ACERs, but we do still require them to be kept with the SWP3. Another good thing to look at while looking at their documentation is to see if they're conducting their quarter visual monitoring. Quarter visual monitoring is a tool that is supposed to be used to evaluate how effective control measures are being at eliminating potential discharges of pollutants through your stormwater runoff. And the quarter visual monitoring is a good tool to monitor this kind of information. And so this is kind of all the basic review of the OKR05 and the updates that we've had recently. I will kind of go into the OKR4 a little bit with the MCM2, the Industrial Stormwater Runoff Control for MS4s. Sorry. MS4s need to implement and enforce a program to prevent or reduce pollutants in any stormwater runoff to your MS4 from independently owned industrial activities that discharge into your small MS4. Again, we want you to maintain and update the list of all the industrial facilities that are subject to the OKR05 or individual OPS permits that for discharges of stormwater associated with industrial activity. And I know we have a few individual or separate permits that are mainly just for stormwater discharges, and they won't all be covered by OKR05s. For facilities with less than 50 facilities inside their MS4 boundaries, we expect about 20% of those facilities to be inspected per year. If you have 50 or more, we expect at least 10 per year to be done. And then I also got asked to talk about annual reports and when those are due. This is kind of just if you implement your SWMP3, your SWIMP on a calendar yearly basis, then those reports are due April 30th. And if you do it on a fiscal year basis, then those reports are due October 31st of the following reporting period. Sorry. But yeah, so that's about it that I have regarding the OKR05 permits and updates. I know you guys may still have questions. My manager is a great resource, Wayne Craney, and he should be able to help provide and answer any questions that you may have.
I'm just going to let you know I say that stuff.
Thank you guys for inviting me out to talk a little bit today about the OKR05 MSP permit. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Perfect. It doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. However, if you do have questions, please type them into our chat and Wayne Creaney can answer them for you. If anyone still needs to register for either of the 2024 webinar series or our quarterly e-newsletter, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to provide you with that information. You can also sign up by using the QR codes now on your screen. Thank you all for attending today's session. We hope everyone enjoyed the presentations and are continuing to enjoy our webinar series. We hope to see you again on April 16th for our next installment of our webinar series. We will be hearing from Lance Swearingen, the Director of Horticulture and Grounds for Zertail Park, and Connie Patillo with Wind River Microbes regarding soil health. We hope everyone can tune in again in April. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
I don't think it that way.